All right, everybody. Aloha Friday Live. Thank you for being with me tonight. I know you could be somewhere else, so we are very appreciative of you sharing this platform with us. Today, I have Alisha Leytem with me, the better half of another brother that I love, Michael. And we're going to be talking about leadership and wellness, folks. So stick around. We're going to have a great conversation with a professional that focuses on this. Tonight, I want to make everybody aware we are streaming for the first time on Parade Deck. If you don't know about Parade Deck, paradedeck.com, search them out. Go see what they're about. Military community doing great things. But tonight, folks, we're going to be diving into leadership and well-being. Alisha, thank you so much for being with me and sharing your day with me this Friday evening. Excited about what you're going to be telling us. Excited about sharing with folks your book. Folks, we're going to be talking about a book that's already in the comments. So if you want to go ahead and order that stuff, go ahead, do it now. But tonight, Alisha, thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Enrique. I'm excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this. And I'm glad I can finally connect with you. As you mentioned, my husband, you guys are brothers. And so I'm glad I can connect with you in my own way.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, folks, it's going to be an entertaining subject tonight because out of all things well-being, I think it's at the top of all that we can do. My family just came out of a week and a half long battle with COVID. It was not something that we went on. My wife had to go get an operation. She just had to come out of the hospital. Guess what? Bam, she's positive, and so were we. It just kind of trickled right there, right? So what I attribute to a speedy recovery was the fact that we were taking care of ourselves prior to. It was critical to be in a position where you can absorb some type of attack like that, which most people know. Back in April, last April, not this April, last April, my mom did not survive an attack of COVID, but and she wasn't ready neither. Right? She wasn't. She physically was not ready for something like that. So, a good subject to talk about well-being. We're going to be talking about different things, and I'm going to let Alisha talk a little bit about her book and the subject. But before we get into all of that, Alisha, what's your perspective on as far as leadership is concerned, with ensuring that well-being is at the top of their game?
Yeah, well, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom, and that you guys all had it. Man, what a journey. You all feeling better? That's good
Yeah,
to hear.
yeah. Everybody's negative and feeling better. Obviously, my wife had a double whammy because she did have a hip surgery, so she
Wow,
just felt twice as bad. But she's recovering well.
good, good. Um, yeah, well, I feel so for me, the biggest thing with well-being and leadership is when leaders feel good, when they feel better, they're able to lead better. It's really that simple. And I think that we kind of miss the mark on that quite a bit, which is, in the past couple of years with COVID and everything, we're really understanding the power and the importance of your overall health and well-being. Like we're understanding how important that is. But what I'm finding, we're still as leaders almost saying like, you guys need to take care of yourself, and I'm still going to keep doing the things that I was doing. And so it's really the opposite. If we want everyone on our teams and those that we're taking care of to really embody this well-being, we need to embody that. We need to show that. We need to model that. We need to be the example of that. And so when you truly, genuinely feel good, which is my definition of well-being, you feel good mentally, you feel good physically, and you feel good spiritually. When you feel good, your team can feel that, right? When you're around other people who are just thriving and they're happy and they're healthy and they're feeling good overall, that's a ripple effect that other people match that kind of energy that you bring. So I think it's so vital that leaders know how to improve that for themselves.
Well, I think the people for the most part are never asking leaders to tell me the way, show me the way is what people ask, right? Show me the way. I know there is a way. Some people can do it for themselves, and I think that's the worst predicament to be in as a leader, where you are not displaying that, right? You're not embodying it as you mentioned, and you're not producing it, but your subordinates are. And then how can you tell a person that's following, that's actually part of your team, anything at that point when when you're not doing it and they are, right? So it's a position where leaders need to be conscious that it must start with them first. And if you can't, that's okay, because we're all human, but get the help, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, it's not about being perfect. It's not about being this like ideal, perfect image of health overall, but it is about making it a priority and showing that in your actions and in your thoughts and in your behavior. And so if you're showing that as like, hey, this truly is a top priority in my life, my wellness is important to me, um, that's going to make a bigger impact than I think a lot of people even realize.
And leaders are there for impact, right? They're there to
Yes.
influence and bring others to some place where maybe they've been before, or maybe they've not been before, but maybe they can go together. And wellness is one of those areas where you have to pick at continuously, right? Intentional actions toward being well, mentally. And I can tell you, so you could be physically 100% in shape, and if your mind is off, you can forget about it. I mean, it'll just derail you. Your mind could be right and your body can't can't move, right? And that's debilitating. So you have to look at ways to intentionally add a few elements of well-being throughout. And we're going to talk about your book. And I'm going to bring that up now so I could show. All right. So this is her book, and um the six gold keys to well-being, a guide to unlocking a happy and healthy life. You mentioned happiness earlier. You mentioned embodying the fullness of what is well as a leader.
Mhm.
So tell us about this book, because I know this is this your first one?
It is. Yep.
Oh boy, even better. So so we're gonna be talking about this book now, folks, and I'll let Alicia talk about it. What brought you to this junction in life?
Yeah. Well, it really starts back in my mid 20s, so about a decade ago. I was kind of going through my own quarter life crisis, if you will. I had just finished college. I had gone to grad school for nonprofit leadership, and Michael, my husband, and we had just gotten married, and we had moved to a new state, hundreds of miles away from home. And he had started this new job, and I was having a very difficult time finding a position. It was right after the recession. It was just, that time of life. And I found myself really struggling mentally a lot because I was putting a lot of my own worth on, my work that I was doing, and I didn't have any at the time. And so, what was helping me, the only thing that was like truly saving me in that moment was taking care of myself, was being at home. The only thing that I could control was how I was taking care of me. I was um, going to farmers markets and cooking really healthy food. I found myself going to the YMCA all of the time and like meeting other people. And it was leaving those sessions from the gym that I felt that I could be more resilient. I felt that I was able to handle all of the things that I was going through. And so from there I found meditation, I found mindfulness. That just one door opened after another, that I, even though I wasn't finding the career path at that moment, I was doing all of this internal work that I felt so good, and I was just still thriving from the inside. And so what happened is the company that my husband was working for, the CEO actually asked me to start coaching him on his wellness. And so that's really where a lot of this started, was I kind of have pieced together over these last 10 years of starting, coaching the CEO, who I thought, like, from the outside had everything really figured out. And then here I am on the opposite end, really helping him with something to, that he was struggling with, to improve his own leadership. And that was like really the beginning of like, oh, okay, I can take this passion of this wellness that I've healed myself with, that I've really been able to thrive myself and help other people. And so over the past 10 years is where I've really understood this, the 6 keys that I like to say are the framework to really the basis, the foundation that is essential for being a well person. And it's not every single thing with well-being, but if you are able to master these things, you will absolutely have like this very solid like foundation, kind of like building a house for you to build upon. And so that's how I got to where I am with the framework.
Outstanding. And I tell you that it's through these periods in our life, right? It's these valleys that we all hate to go travel through. Right? It's not fun going from mountaintop to valley. It is not. It gets damp, dingy. It can get rough, pretty bad. But it is there that most things are discovered. And it's funny because as a leader, you're like, well, okay, well, you don't want to go down there. But unless you go down there, you don't get what's going to make you rise back to the top. So it's one of those things that just plays out. Now you
Definitely.
you you mentioned 6, and you call them 6 gold keys, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what's the gold piece about?
So the gold piece, it's there's dual meaning to it. The gold as an acronym is a journal prompt that I share with you at the very beginning of the book, so that at the end of each key, it's a way to turn that area of your well-being into gold, if you will. And so it's this process that you can go through and say, okay, I've learned all of these things from this chapter. Where do I start? How can I, start to incorporate this and activate these habits through that acronym? So it's a powerful, journal prompt, but also it's how to make your life gold, how to shine yourself, right? It's your time to shine. Like, you can step into that and help you turn really your whole life into feeling something that's like truly golden, right? Shining from the inside out. So that's where the gold comes from, to just help you, turn on your light.
Yeah, I love gold, physically. I love gold
Good.
financially. Everybody should. But the
Hmm.
fact that, you mentioned, refining, shining, getting that luster in life. It's wonderful that you make that correlation. Now, you start off with the first key, which is sleep, and I'll tell you, I'll be honest, it's been a long week and a half. I was sitting here prepping, and I was like, so I know how much sleep is worth, especially when you're trying to drive an initiative. If you are the CEO of a company and or a leader in any category, you might want to put it. Lack of sleep will mess you up. Uh, you could be, like I said, you could be physically fit. You could be everything is all good, but if you so why you start with sleep, although I know that it is so important.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you understand the reasons for it, which I think you highlighted really well. I think at its core, sleep is like the ultimate investment that you need to have the day that you desire. And so your best day actually starts the night before by preparing to have a really great night of sleep. It doesn't start the second you wake up, it starts the night before. And so, like you said, if you aren't rested, then you aren't able to show up and do your best work. It's really as simple as that. And I think because it's so simple, it's so easy to push it off to the side and not make it a top priority, especially in this like hustle culture or in like the travel, constant go, go, go culture. It's this mentality of I'll sleep when I'm dead. I can't remember how many times I've heard that from people that I'm like, that is so backwards. Like that's not helping you at all, at all. And so I think people are afraid that if they sleep or if they take time to rest, that means that they're not being productive. But I really challenge people to remember that rest is one of the most productive things that you can do, because when you're sleeping, you're actually processing the events from the day, and your creativity is enhancing. Like you're able to download and really work through all the events that happen in the day, so that you have a really clear mindset and clear, self, so that you can absorb even more in the next day and be even sharper than the day before. There's a story that I love to really refer to from Ariana Huffington. She used to own Huffington Post, right? And she talked about how at the peak of, I think it was at the peak of when she was like launching and working on Huffington Post, that she was just go, 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 sleeping like 3 hours a night, bragging about it. Sometimes you'll get to conferences and be like, oh, wow, I got 2 hours of sleep last night, but I'm like still going. And everyone's talking about how much little sleep they had. And one day she collapsed on her desk from lack of sleep, and she like broke her nose. She woke up in the hospital, and truly all because she was not sleeping and just working way too much. And so it was in that moment she realized how important it was. And so she changed her entire like business model and the way that she worked, and realized that she's actually been even more successful as a leader by prioritizing her rest and her sleep. So she's like on this mission now to really promote how important we need to keep sleep in our self-care repertoire. So I think that's really helpful to remember.
Yeah, no, and that's a hard lesson to to learn, especially in her position where she's so visible, right? And you show up, now you got this broke nose, you got,
Yeah.
and to have to say, "Hey, I wasn't getting all the rest that I should have." I tell you that I wake up when God say. That's how I live.
Yes, same.
I tell you, I go to sleep now. I won't tell you that I don't go to sleep late. I'm up late, but when I wake up is when I wake up, and that's when my day starts. So, there's a lot of people that, hey, I like to meet you at 8. I'm sorry, that's not gonna work because I might not be there. So,
Try again. We'll do an afternoon. Can't
yeah,
guarantee it.
we'll try to rearrange it, but I know from personal stories. One that my wife shares, a cousin of hers, did not make it home because they were working so much that they fell asleep at the wheel, right?
Mm.
And so it not only has physical implication, it can have mortal type implications, and you have to be able to uh, uh, keep a level of awareness in life. Um, sh- there may be people signing things away because they're too tired to even read stuff, and I've seen it. So I love that you start with sleep, because out of anything that we could do is that's probably real important. Now we have a comment here from all the way from Australia. Rajiv,
Ooh.
hi, how are you? Thank you for being with the, he's been with us on Aloha Friday Live before. I guess sleep gives your subconscious mind the time to uninterruptedly process the data you've saved in your mind during the day. And look, there's some great ideas that come by way of sleeping. A full rested mind. And it's just amazing. Now, some people, unfortunately, they can't sleep all night long. I always say if you can't do it on your own, well, then see someone that can help you with that, because there's doctors and there's medicine and there's not doesn't have to be pharmaceutical. just normal medicine like plants and stuff that will help you get what you need.
Yeah, well, I think that's why your viewers will enjoy the book because also a resource guide. So in the second half of each key in each chapter, I give you all of the resources to help improve that area. So I give you tons of things that you can do to improve your sleep. In fact, I had someone who told me recently that she has been struggling with sleep, so much so that she went to do this sleep study
Hmm.
to see what was wrong.
Right.
And so she went to the study, and it was like this 2 week thing. And at the end of it, they were like, "Hey, we don't see any issues. There's nothing we can do to help you." And she said, "There's nothing. You don't have any tips for me. There's nothing you can do." They said, "No, we didn't find anything." And so she read my sleep chapter, and she took a couple of the tips that I gave to have a better sleep. And that night, she said she had the best night of her sleep, or the best sleep of her life.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing.
Um,
Amazing.
which is just very simple, basic things. Okay. And I think that we kind of just have to come back to the basics, go back to, I mean, I use nature as my metaphor for everything because I think that it can just teach us all the things.
Oh yeah.
So there's plant medicine in there, and like just kind of come back to nature. If you're more connected with that and do these very easy, simple things, it's gonna make a really, really big difference.
Yeah, I've gotten here in the last handful of months, I would say, to grounding, and grounding just makes a world of a difference when you don't have this charge build up in you. Just release it in nature. I have a huge backyard that I walk around. There's
Mhm.
nothing but grass, and so it's just a wonderful experience to be able to release some of the energy that builds up on in you. Because we are electrical. And so, if anybody's listening, and there's several people that are online right now with us, don't be shy. Go ahead in the comments and let us know that you're with us. But if you're having trouble sleeping in one way or another, there's several things, and you can read Alicia's book, but there are different ways of getting to a position where you can actually get a good night's sleep without much to do. You mentioned, I've been talking about a healthy body, nutrition next, right? And nutrition,
Mhm.
um, obviously, for many reasons, it should be on the list.
Mhm.
Um, but let me give you the floor to talk about nutrition.
Yeah. Well, I think for leaders, one of the biggest things to remember is that your brain is made primarily of fat. Okay. So if you want to have a very sharp brain, then you want to be eating more healthy fats. Again, very simple things, but these little tweaks will make a really big difference in your day. And I'm really about it's not about when you come to me or when I host, trainings or workshops for teams, I'm not saying I need you to do more, like add more to your list. It's what are you currently doing that we can make a shift? What are you currently doing that we can make a very simple tweak that's going to add up to be a very big difference? Because if you change one thing that you do in your day, you're going to change your life because your life is made up of things that you do in your day, right? So just tiny little things such as adding more avocados to your meals, right? To your lunches, because avocados are a very good source of healthy fat that's going to help you to focus more. If you're able to focus better, you can get great work done in a less amount of time. Okay. That's important. We like time is very, very important for us. The other thing that I talk a lot about in the nutrition key that I think that is highly underrated is the importance of your gut health. Okay. And our gut is actually considered our second brain. This is something that Eastern medicine has known for thousands and thousands of years, but Western medicine has recently confirmed it in research. Our gut is considered our second brain. So, what does this mean? This means that you want to have a very healthy gut of healthy bacteria to help you digest your food very well. Because when you're digesting your food and you have a very healthy gut, um, system, everything is flowing, your digestive system is working and cleaned out, that is connected to your brain. So when your gut is clean and everything's, working the way it should every day, your brain will reflect that as well. And to improve your gut health, you simply improve your diet. So if you do nothing but stop eating processed food and instead eat real food, just real food, that's it, food that is from nature, that hasn't been processed or in a box, that will basically change the entire trajectory of your gut health, which will help you to be a lot more focused and a lot more efficient with your time, your day. And of course, you're going to feel better.
Absolutely. And, the factor of nutrition has been a big thing. If I'm grounding, there's other things that I'm doing. That nutrition piece is so hard for some people
Mhm.
because of cultural upbringing, right? So I'm Puerto Rican. Um, we eat, we we eat some stuff that is not healthy. I'll tell you that right now. There's a lot of pork. There's a
Mhm.
lot of salt. There's a lot of fat. And it's just part of our diet, except that I will tell you, if I go to the countryside,
Mhm.
they eat roots, bananas, plantains, avocados. I mean, their diet, and yes, they'll roast a pig just like every other Puerto Rican, but it's on a spigot. It's different. And there's 2 diets in Puerto Rico. One is just fast food and everything's fried, and then you go to the country and you eat and you're full, but you're healthy. And those people live to hundreds, to the hundreds.
Yep.
Uh, and they're up, they're not in getting any McDonald's or anything. So it's a proven fact that even in and amongst a community, there's 2 different types of eating, So you can't just say, "Oh, I'm Puerto Rican and that's just how we eat." No, because I've been to the countryside and I've been to the city, and they're 2 different eating habits.
Mhm. That's a great example. And I think you just highlighted the exact point. It's not about, I think people think healthy eating means you can't enjoy food like pork and rice and salt. In fact, those are the very foods I think you should be eating. That's real food. You're making it yourself. You're cooking it. That's great. Do it. Eat it with the plantains and your avocados, okay? The
Yes.
issue is, yes, you're good. You're golden, right? See, back to the gold piece. But the issue is, what are you eating the majority of the time?
Mhm.
If 80% of your diet is, if you eat, the things we just said, the pork, the rice, the salt, and but 80% of what you're eating is fast food, then that's the problem, right?
Right.
That's the actual problem. So it's, what are you eating 80% of the time? What is your diet the majority of the time? If you shift on that, then don't worry about the other 20%. It's actually one of my tips from the book. Just focus on 80/20. 80% of the time, eat real food, okay? 20%, let it go, enjoy your life, go live all the things, eat your Puerto Rican food, you know?
Outstanding. Well, I'm happy. I just we just talk about that. It's amazing. So, you know, we we've spoken about sleep. We've talked about nutrition, and your next key is movement. Now,
Mhm.
up until COVID hit the house, I was walking 5 miles every day.
Good for you.
5 miles every day.
Wow.
I went from, no joke, I remember, and I remember this. I stepped on a scale. It said 199. I said, "Oh, no." Not today. No.
Uh-uh.
No, not me, not ever. I'm 170, right?
Wow.
The It was not gonna happen with me. That's a fact, right? And so there are things that we literally allow to happen in our life. Um, just as easy as I um got on there and saw that almost 200 pounds. I mean, I could have just ate one more burger and I'd have been 200 pounds. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and saw that and said, "There's no way. This is not going to happen." and then I got on my walk routine and whatnot. Um, we could blame anything and everything. Movement is our deal, right? So tell
Mhm.
us how you address movement in your book.
Yeah. I think that what people I encourage people to do is start to ask themselves what their relationship is with movement. Okay? I think one thing that trips a lot of people up is thinking that it has to be very formal movement. It has to be something that this perfect workout, this like
Right.
1 hour workout where you go to the gym and that's like, okay, well, I don't have the time for it. I don't have the energy for it. I don't want to. It doesn't sound exciting to me. And so we just push it off to the side because we're stuck in this like all or nothing mentality, right? I don't need to go into the benefits of movement. I think we all understand why it's important to move our bodies um, physically, right? But mentally and emotionally, it's one of the fastest ways to shift yourself from a negative mood and to get creative downloads to find creative solutions. So as a leader, if you're stuck on something and if you can't come up with a solution, if you go and move your body and do anything to just move your body, you're literally shifting and moving energy, then you almost always have the solution come through. So I think this is why it's really important to do some kind of movement in your workday. And again, this doesn't have to be a formal thing. Like you, Enrique, is going for your walks. I even had someone yesterday actually tell me, "Hey, I don't know why, but I never realized that walking was actually considered a workout until they read my book because that's one of my main movements that I recommend that people do is just walk more. And so if you do nothing more but walk more, then you're moving your body enough, just like you've been doing. And this is something, again, it doesn't have to be this formal thing. What if you every day when you have your team calls, you just do it as you're walking outside? Or if you have any kind of call, a one-on-one call, coaching calls, instead of sitting down at Zoom, just being like, hey, I'm gonna take this on my phone today and do it while you're walking. This is something that you can like habit stack. It doesn't have to be like, where can I find another 30 minutes in my day to add on that doesn't exist? It's where can I shift things around to add that in to something that I'm already doing. Just as a way to start it. And then also my mantra that I share in the book is every day I move in some way. So see if you can just move in some way every day. And again, it's all the little things you do that add up to be a really big transformation for you. It's all the little things.
That's amazing, and I tell you what, while you're talking, I was thinking about how I got to, because you don't get to 5 miles from one day to the
True.
other. Okay, it was a little. I started 8. I'm gonna go to the stop sign down there, and I'm gonna come back, and I knew it was about a mile, mile and a half, maybe, if that. And then it just became easier, and I said, you know what, man, I could do this. Let's add such and such, and so I actually walked 5 miles in an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow.
But yeah,
Good for
no,
you.
thank you. And but it was incremental, right? It was just, yeah, I
Mhm.
had to add one thing to another and add them one thing to another. But you mentioned the mind, and a lot of people don't understand that. So here's this one instance that I ran into when I was doing this. I was walking, and of course, I got Fitbits of Fitbits telling me, "Hey, you walked so many miles, or you walked half a mile, and this is your lap, your time, right?" I got to the point where I heard it said average pace 14 minutes, and I said, "Hold up, what?" Because I was going so much that I was just not. And when I heard 14 minutes, a mile walking, I was just my ear to ear. I'm walking, I'm like, "Yeah, boy, you better get this." And then I heard 13. So, your body, kinda receives this, your own accolade, right? Your own excitement, and what I noticed that when I heard that, yeah, I was happy that I was able to break that. That it wasn't a goal. It just happened and I heard it, but inside I felt a surge of energy
Mm.
and I started walking faster. I'm like, bro, you've been walking for 4 miles. You need to slow down. You don't need to walk. But it gave me this burst of energy and I was walking fast. And that's how I got to 13. Right. So
Mm.
there's this relationship. And we've been talking about sleep, right? So if I was tired, I wasn't going to get there. If I wasn't eating right, we talked about nutrition, and it wouldn't have helped my now movement area where now I'm surging, right? This thing is feeding me now. And so it was just something I wanted to share when you talk about, little steps add to bigger, that's what happened with me.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's exactly what happens. It's when you focus on one of the six keys, it doesn't really matter which one you focus on, they will domino effect all the other ones because they all relate to each other. Just like you said, oh, I was sleeping better, I was eating better, oh, I was able to move better, right? Like they all add up with each other, and they are all very deeply related with one another. And I'm glad too you talked about the mindset around it, because really with my work with like corporate executives and the trainings I do and like my workshop series based on the six keys is I share these things with you. I give you tips about it, but most importantly, we work on your mindset around it. We work on the way you think about it, because your behavior isn't just your behavior. Your behavior is a result of the thoughts that you're thinking and the mindsets that you have around that thing. And so we start to talk about that. We have open communication with that. And we have, like you're doing right now, imagine that in like this group setting of everyone sharing and opening up, like, wow, yes, I actually had that same experience where I realized one day I woke up, I stepped on the scale, and this is what happened. I wasn't going to do that anymore. Or, hey, I'm right there in that moment. This is, hard for me, and here's my belief system around this. Here's what my relationship is with movement, and we start to dive into that to uncover that. And as you think differently around it, then you'll start to see your behavior changes as a result of that. And this goes with anything in your life, right? If you want to change any kind of behavior in your life, you have to start asking yourself, well, what are the things that I'm thinking about this thing? Because your thoughts are what turns into your behavior and your reality.
Absolutely. Now, the next key is nature. And if I've known, or if I know anything from the Leadham family pictures that I see all the time, nature has a place in your home. And so tell us about nature.
Well, you kind of mentioned it a little bit already, which is the power of grounding,
Mm,
right? That's literally one of the tools that I give you to get the benefits of your time out in nature. So the biggest thing when it comes to nature is we are struggling as a society, as a culture, with something called nature deficit disorder. Okay. Now this was coined in the early 2000s. But essentially what it is it's all of these health and mental and physical health issues that are a result of too much screen time and
mm,
not enough time outside.
mm,
It's very simple. We're spending way too much time on screens, and we're wondering why we're anxious, why we're depressed, why we're overwhelmed, why we're not healthy, and we need to just get back to spending more time outside. That's the solution. The good news is we just have to spend more time outside. And
abs-
so when you're outside, um, there's so many benefits to it. I mean, even just spending time outdoors and breathing in the fresh air of the trees or the lakes or the water or the ocean, it's actually been studied. The research is finding that it's impacting your gut microbiomes, which we talked about the importance of your gut. So even just being outside is improving your gut health. That's just one thing. So there's so many benefits to just spending time outdoors. Um, it will improve your mental health, like I said, your physical health, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things in the book that I share about to do so is grounding, which is just direct contact with the earth. So for you, it's probably walking barefoot on the beach or like in your backyard. When you do that, you feel that energy surge, right, in your body. And what's happening is your body is literally being recharged by the earth. So think of your body like a cell phone and the earth as your charger. And if we're not having like direct contact with the earth, then our body is like running on E. And so when we want to recharge ourselves, just spending time connecting and touching the earth barefoot or with your fingers, just direct contact with something that's alive in the earth is going to improve your health, reduce your inflammation, help you to focus, you know, so many things. So it's really the basis of unlocking nature.
Yeah, and I love going out and just standing on the grass. I literally can feel a a release into the ground. Now, obviously not, it's not something, but I feel it. I feel it. It's like my body is decompressing. It's relaxing. I'm out, and this week, we opened up all the windows. It's Florida. It's hot, right? So you open up all the windows and it's nothing but hot air. But you know what? That circulation through the house, getting stuff out, let it go out and let fresh come in, because a lot of people will get stuck in an air conditioner and all you're doing is recycling your air anyway.
Mm,
So I had to do that and it also helped, right? So today was the first day where everybody's negative. Okay, great. Everybody was outside, out in the grass, just walking and relaxing in the patio and getting fresh air. One thing I did, because I was the one taking care of everyone while they were in their own separate rooms. Thankfully, we have a big enough house. And Was to go out when I wasn't tending. I would go out and stand on the grass and just take in fresh air so that I wouldn't get too sick. So yeah, I love that the fact that nature is made as part of one of the keys. I tell you that I believe that syndrome, deficit disorder, it's real because we just spend, like you said, too much time um, in front of a screen. Now,
yeah, and I think too, I've been hearing a lot that for some reason we don't think that nature is correlated to professionalism, and I just couldn't disagree more. I think that that's also the problem with just being too professional is being so disconnected from our very core, from the nature of who we are, and we're losing that, right? And if we can really reconnect to the nature of who we are by connecting to nature, like we are a part of nature, we actually are nature itself, that's going to help you to improve your spiritual self. And that's part of my core definition of well-being. Okay, when you feel good in your heart, physically and mentally, you are able to show up so much better. And so I just believe it is one of the most professional things you can do is to incorporate nature as part of your day, and in your work in some capacity because of all the benefits it has to offer you.
now I'll tell you, I've been around the world courtesy of the Navy, and I was in Singapore, and Singapore literally has buildings with vegetation growth on it. They have trees as part of their patios. I mean, it's grass. And even if you go to New York, you get a helicopter ride, you'll see that some of the roof areas have nature like grass and trees for a reason. They just didn't
Mhm.
want to throw that up on a building. It's necessary. It's necessary. Now, this all goes to, and you put your next key is mindfulness. So let's talk about that because a lot of leaders need this.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the most popular sought after key that I've been getting for speaking and coaching, really. It's how can I be more mindful? How can I be a more mindful leader? So, the definition of mindfulness is increasing your awareness on the present moment.
Mm.
And what's interesting is the majority of people, I think it's 90% of people, are thinking about something other than what they're doing in the current moment.
Wow.
Okay. So if you just start to just do a little tracking of yourself of the next 24 hours, catch yourself. In the moment, are you thinking about what you're doing or are you thinking about something else in what you're doing? And so this is robbing you of your happiness because that means you're never actually in your life.
Mm.
You're always in a different part of your life that isn't even here
Yeah.
because the past doesn't exist anymore. The future's not here. It might not ever be here in the way that we're thinking about it, right? And so the only thing that ever really truly exists is right here and right now. And what's also interesting, especially for leaders, okay, is where is your source of power? Your power is in the present moment. And so when you can tap into the present moment, that's where you're tapping into your own personal power. So mindfulness is very important to learn to be more conscious of what it is that you're doing, how you're feeling in the moment, because when you know how you're feeling and you're there, right there, then you can maybe shift or do what it is that you need to do to get yourself in a better place, and be there for everyone else that you need.
I've said being present is the present,
Mm.
right? So if you're a leader and you are, like you mentioned, 90% of the people are somewhere else than where they are currently. Um, no wonder things get so out of whack so easily, because you're not there. And if you want to be anything for your people, it's be there, right? Be there. Yeah, there's plans and there's strategic planning, and then your tactical planning for for companies and organizations, then all that has its place at the table. But when you're leading a person, you need to be there. So love that you put mindfulness in there. Um, you finish this off with intention.
Mhm.
Now, there's been an outcry for the intentional leader, an outcry, because people have realized that they were not mindful, they were not present, they were not there when they needed them, but there was no real intention to lead. Right? They were just either following a script or following a position description, so that they wouldn't get fired, right? And that's just all. They were not interested in leadership from the beginning.
Mm.
And so, how do you unveil intention in the book?
At its core, intention is remembering your why. What are you really after? Why are you really doing what you're doing? And intentions are not the same as goals.
Hmm.
Okay. So for leaders, it's like, oh, I thought they're one and the same, right? Think about goals as like, that's where your focus is, right? This is my goal. This is what we're going to do. We need them. They're important. Intentions are why do I want this goal? And how will I show up? Who will I be in the way to achieving this? So think of intention as like who you are,
Mhm.
how you show up in your day to day. Because the goal is like the outcome of something and your intention is the embodiment of the outcome that you desire. And so when you're an intentional leader, you are aware of the why and you're aware of who you're being on the journey to the thing. And you also remember that the journey to the thing is the whole point in and of itself. Because when you get to the thing, when you achieve the goal, then what's the first thing that you do? You set the next goal. And then you're just constantly trying to get to this thing and then you feel like you never arrive. Well, because you're kind of missing the point. And so what is the feeling that you're after? What's the embodiment that you are um intending to be? So why are you doing what you're doing? And this comes back to your heart. If you put your heart into it and if you put your authentic truth into it, if you're lit up by what you're doing, by the action of it, then you're not so attached to the outcome of it. You're not so you don't need something to happen because you're being it in the process of it. And so this is how you truly genuinely improve your happiness. Like you're happier in the path, in the journey of it. You embrace the whole part of it. So I think that people really need to when you're looking at your goals, when you're thinking about your goals, just ask yourself, what's the intention behind this goal? What's my why? There's a clip that I love to share in all of my workshops for these leaders. It's a clip with Oprah, and one of and like an author that she brought in who wrote about the power of intention. And Oprah says in this clip that when she fully understood what intention meant, the way that she did her entire business, the way that she was CEO completely changed. Because what she did from then was she said no one on her team was allowed to even come to her with an idea unless they had an intention for what the idea was for. And so everything became so much more intentional. And you can even apply this to your day and your schedule, right? Moment by moment.
Now I tell you that intention has um, it has a way of eluding leaders, and this is what what I mean about that. Uh, Leaders confuse intention for goal all the time, all the time. And when those and I see goals as markers, right? They're markers on a map. You're headed somewhere. These goals are the markers. What you do between markers is your intention, right? So when you go about leadership in a way that's driven by anything other than a why, like you mentioned, then number one, you may not be living your life. That's number one. You may not be. And number two, you may be living a lie because the things that really fuel your forward movement toward the next goal may be made up. And so you have to know. I love that you mentioned that you have to know the why of you doing it. It's my most asked question of people that I get the opportunity to consult is why are you a leader?
Mm.
If you can't answer that, then maybe you shouldn't be there. It's a hard thing to tell somebody, right? I'm already
Yeah.
here. So what? I don't care what you say. I'm here. Um, but it's a sobering question because leadership requires more than just you filling a position. It requires so much out of us that most people cannot pay that price. But if you know the why, if you know the intent as to why you are there, then maybe it'll make it a little easier. You may figure out that, oh, snap, yeah, I don't even want to be here. I don't. I don't want to be in
Yeah,
charge of people. Look at this. I mean, I got 10 people. I can't even live my own life. I've got to live
right.
10 people's lives. So intent is so critical to well-being. Yeah, you're right. Now we've covered all of the points, which are sleep. We've covered nutrition. We've covered movement, nature, mindfulness, and intention. And they are all, folks, they are all in this book, The Six Gold Keys to Well-Being, a guide to unlocking a happy and healthy life. I've put that in that link to the Amazon page for you on the comment section. So be sure to get in there and look that up. Alicia, getting right in totality, it's a task. It's a task, right? Because not everybody has a great environment to thrive in. So for those, and I know you mentioned, hey, just add little by little, but for those that are having challenges, that are leaders, are having challenges with well-being, what would you tell them? Outside, I know what I'm going to tell them. Go to Alicia, go to Alicia. She's
Read the
got a
book.
course. She's got a course I know about. But what would you tell them so they can get started down a road where they can implement these 6 keys?
Yeah. So that I knew that this was going to be like the main question when the book came out, was which one do I start with? And sometimes people feel overwhelmed because they, even as you're like hearing this, all six of them, you're like, wow, I need to do all of them. And the point isn't for you to feel overwhelmed. The point is to start small and choose one and then build your way up from there. So there's two things that you can do. One is you can just read the book and decide which key you want to start with, and just focus on that key for 1 to 2 weeks. Just give yourself ultimate permission, like let everything else go, all the other five, and just focus on that one. And as you unlock it a little bit more, you feel more comfortable, then you can start to unlock the other one a little bit, right? And you never really arrive. You're always going to be shifting and getting better with it, but just to kind of get you to the next level. Now, the other thing you can do is I have a free assessment that you can take that will help you identify which is your strength of the six and then which one is your lowest. And so that's a really good one to get, data on, and kind of take this survey. As long as you're honest, then you'll get a really good result. And then it's, everyone takes it as like, oh yeah, that's pretty accurate. And so this is, this one, my score out of 5 is like a 1. I'm not moving at all. Makes perfect sense. So then I would say, start with the movement. Just go back, and even if you only read that chapter in the book, take a few of the tools and tips that I give you and just start incorporating them throughout the book. And you can use the GOLD acronym, the GOLD journal prompt, to really help you decide then what things to do or implement that you want to through that acronym. Because this book isn't like a, here, follow these exact things, and this is like the exact self-care and wellness plan that you need to do. It's like a pick and choose. It's, hey, this resonates with me. I want to try this out of all the things that I give you to kind of think about and reflect on, so you can really customize and make a wellness plan that feels good and fits into your own unique life. So you can access that. And so once you buy the book, you can then go to my website and you can get a free resource guide. And in the resource guide, I have a list of, all of the resources I talk about in the book, including some guided meditations, and that's totally free. And then in that resource guide, you can also take the free assessment, which you can even just go to my website and take the assessment and get your results on that right away too.
Outstanding. Well, I'm going to make sure to get that link for the assessment in the chat. I'll do a post the live.
Okay.
But folks, the link to her book is the very first comment on the live. So you just go all the way to the top. You'll see it there. Get that book. Get well. Get well. That's the gist of it is, let's start getting well. Whatever issue you may pick or whatever key you may want to start with is fine. But let's get well. And a lot of leaders have been in the habit of putting themselves last. Yes, I do know leaders eat last. And yes, I do know that we often are required to, just put everything in and invest in our people. But a dry well can't give water. That's just the way it is. And so, as a leader, you cannot give what you don't have. You must be well. Alisha, thank you so much for sharing not only your profession and your background, but the keys to getting us to well-being. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is a good conversation. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. So today, I want to make sure that I highlight this. Today, we've been fortunate to be streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube. But today, for the first time, we're streaming on Parade Deck. Go check them out. I'm so happy to be in that type of community. We would just love for you to go ahead and purchase Alisha's book and get well. Let's try to do that little by little. You don't have to do it all at once. But folks, we're going to sign off here. Thank you for being with us tonight. I hope you start your wellness journey And thanks to Alisha Leytem once again for being with us. We'll see you next week when we talk to another guest about leadership and a topic. And for now, Aloha Friday, everybody. God bless you. We'll see you next week.